All right, hopefully you enjoyed part one in our ground reaction force series, trying to explain not only what these ground reaction forces are, but more importantly, what the application of each one of these forces is in the golf swing. So now that we've talked about the last force that happens, vertical force, let's talk about the force that happens just prior to that, which would be the torque of the golf swing. So when we talk about torque, I think it's really important for people to once again understand the definition and what we're actually trying to do. So when we talk about a torque, we are talking about trying to create an equal and opposite shearing effect, moving both posteriorly and anteriorly throughout the golf swing. So both in this direction and in the downswing in that direction, we want to be creating the shearing effect between the 2 feet. So by definition, a torque isn't that we're trying to move side to side. It isn't that we're trying to move forwards and backwards. It's that we're trying to move towards and away the ball and not create tilt this way. So that by definition is what torque is in the golf swing. But where it gets very misleading in golf and where the application typically doesn't match what we want to see is that when we add a golf club to the hands and we start swinging, it's very easy to be misled. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So like I was saying, once we add the golf club to the hands, this really gets misleading for a lot of golfers because like me and like most golfers, we've really not had force plates available to us in the past, and we've been looking at this through a video. So when we look at this through a video alone and I get set up, it's very easy to go to the top of the swing and appear like I'm really creating a lot of torque and a lot of twist with my body. And we'll see a lot of players getting this look here where they're really getting spun out. So what's the difference between a spin out and actually creating a torque? Well, the difference is very simple. If I pick my left foot up from the ground and twist my left hip, that's what looks like a torque on camera. So I can actually kind of keep my left foot from pushing very much, so I got most of my weight on my right foot here. And it looks like I'm really creating a lot of torque and twist. But in reality, I'm not doing anything to the ground, and I'm not creating that ground reaction force and creating that shearing effect that we're looking for. So what's that actually look like? Well, when I create that shearing and torquing force, what I actually want to do is when I get to the top of my swing, okay, here we go, nice and tall once again, we actually want to feel like the right leg is pushing more towards the ball, and the left foot is actually moving back and away from the ball. So we actually almost want to feel like we pick this left foot up and move it back, and then let our body swing through and create that nice torque. So once again, there's a big difference between just twisting the left foot and trying to twist the ground. And that's the difference. We want to actually apply some effort and some force to the ground and not just twist the left hip. So that's where that's where torque tends to get a little bit confusing for a lot of golfers because it's very easy to make it look like we're creating a substantial amount of torque, but when it comes to actually applying that force to the ground, that's where it gets very difficult for most golfers. Similar to what we did with the vertical force and looking at what some of the better players in the world do, we're going to do the same thing with torque now. So we know that torque is really, really important. So when we're talking about long drive and hitting the golf ball as far as humanly possible, obviously we want to take advantage of the ability to torque. So when we look at Kyle Berkshire here, we can see that his torque value is really, really high. So he's creating 227 foot-pounds of torque there, 210 foot-pounds of torque there, and he's really winding it up. And we can see that that's happening with his lead arm at about 45 degrees, which is great timing for that torque to be taking effect. And the reason that we want to see it happen there is when the lead arm is roughly 45 degrees, what we want to create is we want to get the club to move back in front of the body, right? So we want to force that club out by creating a torque with the lower body, which gets the golf club to move back in front. And now I'm in a position where I can stand up and release the golf club. So we can see that Kyle really creates a massive spike over a short period of time and is very dynamic, which is why he's one of the greatest in the world when it comes to long drive. Awesome. So now, just like we did, we're going to scale it back just a little bit, right? So now we're going to go from one of the longest hitters in the world to more the tour average or slightly below tour average with Brian Gay. And Brian Gay, you can see here, is really doing a nice job of once again creating a lot of torque in this golf swing creating almost 88 foot-pounds of torque, which is just above the tour average. So this creating torque for Brian really allows him to get his upper body rotating and moving open to where this club can release down the line, and he really can take advantage of his muscular contribution from the extension from the trail side. So he's really doing a great job using that torque. And once again, we can see that that's happening with that lead arm pretty close to 45 degrees. So that is really looking a lot better. And sometimes we'll even see that with players, as the speed and the length of the backswing kind of go down, we'll see that that torque actually happens a little bit later. And that's something that we can always address once again, possibly in the gym, getting the body more physically prepared to perform that action. As torque, as we said earlier, is always going to be the most difficult due to human beings sitting too much for the most part. So what have we learned about torque and how do we create it? Well, we've learned it's difficult to do. Most people don't do it well, and we don't really have a tried and true way of telling people to create better torque within everybody. So what can you do to create better torque within yourself? Well, we're going to apply a really easy drill here that's going to make it super easy for you to start feeling what this feels like, right? Because as an athlete, we always need a feel to go off of, because the reason we don't do this already is because we don't know what it feels like. So let's just keep this really simple, and we're going to start without the golf club, and we're just going to put our hands on top of one another, and we're just going to extend our arms without collapsing our body, and we're going to feel that we move more up to the balls of our feet, and we're really trying to create a force downward and feel like we're pushing our palms more down. And from this position, what we want to do is we want to keep pushing down and keep the force down as we rotate our body. And how do we rotate? Well, we start on the balls of the feet, like we said, so we're really pushing down, and then we're going to move to our right heel, and then to our left heel, and then to our right heel, and then to our left heel. And if you're having a hard time feeling that pressure, then what we can do is we can scale this, and we can add a golf club. So we're going to put the golf club vertically in front of us, both hands back on top of the golf club, just like before. And now we're actually going to exert a little bit of force on the golf club and hold that down into the ground and do the exact same thing. So from moving from the balls, ball heel, ball heel. And we can see that there is movement in my lower body, even though there is not side-to-side movement. So my pelvis and my hips are moving towards and away in an opposite and equal fashion, allowing me to rotate my pelvis anterior and posteriorly. So we hope this drill is super helpful for you to create more torque. I would definitely encourage everybody who plays golf to create more torque. One of the biggest reasons for creating more torque is it's simply going to create more hand depth and allow you to make a bigger backswing. And that's going to allow everybody to make a bigger swing, hit the ball harder, and hopefully find more fairways and create more opportunities to create a lot of birdies. So we hope you found this video super helpful. Make sure to hit the like and the subscribe. Make sure to share this out and give us a follow on social media as well at Measured Golf.